Welcome, everybody, to the Middleton Elite Entrepreneur Podcast, where we're deconstructing elite performance in real estate, business, and life through candid conversations with business leaders and thought leaders. I'm your host, Bill Middleton, the founder of Middleton Elite Coaching, and I'm glad to have you here. Let's get started. I'm excited to welcome my longtime friend and client, Mark Rucker, to the podcast. Mark is a native of Greenville, South Carolina, and a graduate of Furman University, where, among other things, he was a wide receiver on the football team. We'll talk more today about how sports has influenced his life and career. Mark's been in the real estate business since 2004, and his team, Rucker and Associates, is in the top 1% of realtors in the Greenville area. His business is built on relationships, and over 90% of his sales come from referrals, past clients, friends, and family. Mark's an expert at time blocking, time management, and winning the game in the trenches. That allows him the freedom to live his life by design, being involved in kids' sports, the community, and traveling extensively with his wife, Andrea, and their 3 kids. In today's episode, we cover a lot of very important topics in leadership and team building, including how to build a high-performing team that still has a family culture, why discipline is more important than motivation, how he's targeting both baby boomers and millennials to grow his business, the recent and successful launch of his YouTube channel, and how to lead by example to create accountability. Please enjoy my engaging conversation with Mark Rucker. Well, Mark, welcome to the show. I'm really excited about today's conversation. You and I have been friends for a long time and worked together for a long time. And I know there's a lot of gold that you're going to be able to share with everyone today. So I want to get right to it with one of the things that I admire about you the most, and that is your ability to consistently execute. And I'm going to ask you to talk about that a little bit. But for the folks at home, I know we can all be a little bit guilty of having like great ideas and then not taking action on it. But over the years that we've been working together, one of the things you've done such a fantastic job of is going from like, here's an idea, this is something that's really important to me or to the team, and then you just get to work on it. So I wonder if you talk a little bit about execution and why that's so important to you.
Sure, Bill. So first of all, thank you so much for having me. We're really looking forward to this. So as far as execution, so early on when I got into real estate, I have been really good at going to training classes, listening to podcasts, doing all the things necessary for knowledge, but like you said, putting it in action. So if you don't put things in action, then you're not going to have the results. So what I've been really purposeful in doing is, going to an event, a training class, I will write down max 3 to 5 things with timestamps to it to make sure that they are going to get done. So many times agents will go to trainings, have all this knowledge. You've probably heard the phrase knowledge is power. Well, it's not powerful unless you're going to put it into action. So I have been very purposeful in coming up with 3 to 5 things from each training session, going back to the office, and then coming up with a game plan to implement those. And I'm constantly going back to those things to make sure that they are effectively done. So that's been a really, really big part of my business over the years. You're exactly right.
Yeah. And it's the old phrase, like the smart bookshelf that we all have that's got lots of information on it, but not necessarily been acted upon. And you do a really good job of that. To use a football analogy, because I know you were a collegiate football player, one of the things you've talked to me often about is how much you enjoy being in the trenches with the team and leading by example. So I wonder if you might talk a little bit about that, and maybe that even leads to a little bit of football history or upbringing that hardwired that into you.
Sure. So, to back up to my childhood, I've grown up playing sports. If it was baseball, basketball, football, and football is actually what got me to college at Furman University. But just having the, the discipline, really, it's instilled in my life that actually goes back to my childhood as well with my parents. So, my dad has that engineer mind. So he's a former civil engineer. So he's very disciplined in his daily life. And that instilled in me growing up. And then that led to the ball fields. So I have been constantly coached my entire life. I've been yelled at my entire life from coaches. And so going back to the football field, we used to have sessions at Furman to where, period 1, period 2, period 3, and we would be very disciplined in each section. And I brought that into the real estate world, as you know, and that goes to kind of how I time block my days. So if session 1 at Furman was the wide receivers, which is the position I played, we were warming up or going against the defensive backs. I bring that to the real estate world to where session 1 is my first hour of lead generation. So I pretty much map out my day as if I'm mapping out a football practice, because everything goes back to sports for me. And I really can relate, like you said, to the football field to bring into my business. So that's been a huge part of my business. Also, where else I bring it into the business is, I call it gain yardage. So with my buyer specialists that are on the team, when we have a lead come in, all we're doing is gaining yardage with that lead throughout the day, throughout the week, throughout the month, throughout the years. Each time you follow up with them, you're just gaining a little bit of yardage. So when that lead comes in, they may be on the 10-yard line. You have 90 yards to go. But the next time you talk to them, hey, let's just get them to the 20. Let's get them to the 50. And eventually we're going to get them into the end zone. So as you alluded to, I bring, my childhood and sports background into my business on a daily basis.
Yeah, I love it. There's a couple of things I really want to hit with a highlighter here. So let's go rabbit trail together. First, let's go back to your idea of bringing like different segments or periods into the day and how that feeds into your time blocking. I'm sure the folks who are listening are wondering if you just kind of run us through a typical day. I mean, obviously every day is different. However, if you just sat down and kind of mapped out like, here's Mark's ideal day, what would that look like?
Okay, that's great. So when I time block, I make sure the most important things are time blocked first. So for me, number one, personal time is the most important thing in my life, which was instilled in me at a very early age. And that comes from, everything from eating as a family together at dinner time to traveling together. We always did things as a family growing up. And I've brought that into my world now, married with 3 kids. So the first thing I do is put personal time in. And if that's a date night, if that's going out to lunch with the wife, and also working out. So working out's a big part of my personal time. So I make sure, my standard is working out 4 days a week. So the night before, I time block and say, okay, when am I working out that day? So again, that's the first thing that I put in the calendar is personal time. And then second are vacations, or if it's a travel ball weekend with my child, that's in the calendar. And then it's business. So it goes personal, then business. And I've been doing that for years and years. So going to the personal side, so a perfect day for me, so I get up, help the kids in the morning, and get them to school. So I don't work out in the morning. So mornings are kid time. So drop them off at school. I'm in the office by 8:30. And I think the perfect day starts with the perfect morning. If you don't have a perfect morning, as you know, Bill, things by lunchtime or in the afternoon, they're going to start coming your way. And it's really hard to defend those off. So I time block my lead gen time in the morning. So from 9 to 11, I am lead genning as far as lead and also lead follow-up. And then if I do those 2 things, first thing in the morning between 9 and 11, the rest of the day should be a piece of cake. Then things will happen. Phone call from a buyer, phone call from a seller, negotiating a repair request, whatever that is, I can take care of those things, lunch through the rest of the day. But again, I think the perfect day starts with the perfect morning.
Absolutely. I love it. You're winning your day by lunchtime, and you've checked a lot of personal boxes before you hit the office, and you've checked the most important business related things by the time you get to the lunch break. And then the afternoon comes your way with appointments and other things that you've got scheduled. I love that. All right.
When I coach my team, the Rucker Associates team, I make sure they understand what the four most important things of their job description is. Obviously, personal is number one, but when you get into the business side of things, lead generate, and this is in order: lead generate, lead follow up, going on appointments for buyers or sellers or investors, and number four, negotiating. And that can be contracts, offers, what have you there. And then 5 through 10, I don't care what they do, but those four things have to be in that order for a successful day.
Yeah, absolutely. Mark, where I'd love to go next is to talk more about in the trenches. And I know this is something you and the team do really well, where you're leading by example in those high priority areas that you were just discussing. So could you give us some examples of that, please?
Sure. So, as a top leader in my organization and also the office and in Greenville as a whole, I think leading by example is one of the best things a leader can do. I go back to what Michael Jordan said one time, and he said he's never going to ask his teammates to do something that he's not willing to do. And obviously, he's one of the best athletes of all time. So I treat my business that way as well. So if I'm going to ask my team to lead generate and lead follow up 2 hours a day, then I'm going to do it. And I'm going to lead the way. And I'm also going to do it with them and in front of them. And a lot of times before them, because if they see me doing it, then it gives them the motivation and energy to do it themselves. So we do have call days as a team. We also have different, fun things to do. So right now we have a contest going on, and if we set 36 appointments in the calendar month, that's buyers or sellers, then I am giving the team $1,500 to spend as they want to, and they have to choose what we're going to do. And we're in the fourth week right now, and we're 4 appointments away, so we're going to hit that. So there are a lot of things that I do with them, but also, dangling that carrot out a little bit to have something to go for. But overall, I do lead gen with them quite often, and I think it's me leading that charge is the reason that they do this daily, because they see me doing it, and I do it with them. So I do think that's a very, very important, vital role that a team leader like myself should be doing.
Absolutely. You'll appreciate this as a parent, and going back to the Michael Jordan comment about not expecting team members to do something that you're not willing to do yourself. Similarly, that's a rule within our house. And my 12-year-old completely called me out on this the other day. So quick, fun story for you that you'll appreciate. We're riding in the truck, and he says, out of nowhere, he says, so Dad, you know how you'd never ask me to do something that you're not going to do? Like, okay, where is this going? And I was like, well, yeah, buddy, I think that's fair. And he said, so you and Mom want me to go to bed at 8:30, but you stay up later than that. I'm like, come on, man.
Oh my goodness,
So,
he got you.
yeah, he's pushing us to stay up late. So that is what it is. Anyway, back to the main trail here. Probably a good transition for us to talk about team building and business building. And you've been at this for quite some time. You and I have been working together for a little over 7 years now. And I know there have been some ups and downs and some big wins and some big setbacks. So maybe, if you will, just for the folks who are listening, let's go back to kind of the early days of team building for you. And let's just kind of walk through the highlight reel and maybe some of the setbacks and how you've handled that, please.
So going back 7 or so years ago, I've made every mistake imaginable that you can do as far as team building, which sometimes you just have to learn and fail forward in those. And obviously, as you mentioned, you've been a big reason that my team's where it is today. There's been some uncomfortable moments, which I'll allude to. But going back, 7 years ago, I was in a spot to where, again, some mistakes I made were not hiring the right role. So instead of getting your foundation and your structure built first, which would be your administrative team, I was more focused on hiring a buyer agent. But if you don't have the foundation built, then it will crumble down eventually. You have to have that strong foundation culturally as well to be able to withstand all the ups and downs of real estate. And I've been doing this for 20 years now. So again, I've made the wrong hires. So, when you came on board, if you remember, you came to Greenville and you gave me some advice, and it was kind of a hard pill to swallow, but I took it. Made some changes on the team. And, the first few years, I ended up building a very, very powerful team, and things were great. We incrementally went up year after year after year. And we were selling more real estate than I could even imagine we were going to do. But that was all by hiring the right person. And going back to that, number one, it's got to be a cultural fit. And as you know, it's a very strenuous hiring process that you have and I have as well. It's not a one meeting and done. It's a 4 or 5 meeting process. A lot of ins and outs there. And so you got to get the right person on board. And we had some great years to where we were selling over, $40 million in real estate a year, almost hit 50 one year. And then we had some setbacks. And we are currently in a transition period right now. So we ended up losing our top 2 producers in about a 6-month span. And that's tough, when you're losing, probably 60 deals, 60, 70 deals that walk out the door. That's a big deal in 6 months. So I was smacked in the face. I was punched to the ground, but I had to get up and have fought my way back, and pretty much did the same process I did years ago, really in the past year now. And I feel like we're back. I feel like we've got the foundation, we've got the buyer agents, and now time will tell. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, let's hang out here because I think there are some great lessons for us all to discuss and learn from this. And as you know, you're not alone in this. Any of us that spend any time in team building and business building are going to have really great high points, and we're going to have these setbacks. And there's a marathoner's approach to this. Well, let's go back to kind of like Rucker and Associates version 1, when you and I first began working together. And one of the things that I remember that you also alluded to, and maybe you could speak more to this, is we sort of looked at it and said, okay, you're an A player. There's no doubt in my mind about that. And we had a team that was sort of a mixture of like A's, B's, and C's at that time. So, not to talk out of school, but let's talk about how A's, B's, and C's factor into like version 1 of building the team, and maybe your approach in recruiting to making sure that you're always adding A players and not compromising with B's and C's, or if you have someone on the team who might be a great person, which all of them have been, but the performance level isn't what you're looking for, how you handle that. So take that any direction you'd like, please.
So something I always think about with team members is, you can't complain about things that you tolerate. And there were a lot of things through the years that I tolerated. If it was consistently showing up late, not doing your duties on a daily basis, I let a lot of things slide that I should have put my foot down. And it's tough to fire someone because also now you have to replace. However, it's better to just make that move, pick up the pieces, and just deal with it, because keeping someone on the team that is not an A player will become cancerous, and it will spread through the team, and it will affect me on a daily basis. And it's going to drag through. And I've made those mistakes through the years, and actually pretty recently that, I gave somebody a third, fourth, fifth, sixth, 10th chance. And now my belief is, you can give them 2 chances, but not a third. And by that time, it's probably best to let them go. So going back to the hiring process, I do take it very slow, because the business I run is very family oriented, very low ego, low drama, a positive attitude environment. I'm really big on loyalty and camaraderie and those sort of things. So when I sense someone doesn't fit that mold, that conversation's over pretty quickly. And that starts in the very first interview. When I'm sitting there and asking, a few key questions and they're answering, I know within 5 minutes, are they a fit or not? You can pick up on that pretty quickly. And one of the first things I ask myself is, can I see this person in my organization for the next 10 to 15 years?
Yeah.
And if that's a hard no, then that conversation is going to end pretty quickly.
Yeah.
Because when I bring someone into my world, onto the team, it is family. And that goes back to my, childhood days of how family oriented that my parents were with us kids. And I've brought that into my personal family, but also my extended family, which is my team. So I've got to make sure it's the right hire. And once we go through all the interviews, of course, you're one of the last stops, Bill, as you know, but also I get my team's input. And not that they're the ones making the decision, but, 6 team members, if 4 of them are like, I just don't have a good feeling, then maybe there's something I'm missing. And I'm not going to bring somebody into our world that, again, could be cancerous and mess up the camaraderie of the team. So I get buy-in from all of them. I actually encourage them to meet with the new hiree immediately before I ink the paperwork to get their thoughts. And then, they think they have some say in it. So they're bought into the team. And that's how I've hired for the past few years. And it's gone really, really well.
Yeah. Let's hang out here on this idea of a family business culture. And this is something you and I have talked about a lot. And as we all know, there are different ways to approach this. And there will be some people out there who say, well, you really want to keep your people at arm's length. You don't want to get too close to them because you may one day have to fire them and that'll be hard, or it makes accountability more difficult. And to each their own. But what you've continuously embraced, and I have certainly encouraged because it's in your DNA, is this family-centric, everybody's kind of got their arms wrapped around one another. Everybody's playing on the same team. So first, if you will, please maybe just talk about the advantages of that approach as you see it.
Yeah, so on the advantage side, to build a team that's so family-oriented, we don't want to let each other down. And that kind of starts with our earlier conversation about, being in the trenches. When I'm in the trenches with them, they know that I'm, laying my life down, if you want to look at like an army analogy, but I'm in the trenches with them. I'm fighting with them. I'm making calls with them. They see the good, the bad, the ugly with me. And by doing that, it just makes your team so much stronger. And it's also going to be really hard for them to leave if there's an opportunity out there. So what I'm continuing to do is, if you have the Rucker and Associates world, my world has to continue to get bigger and bigger, because you bring a rock star onto the team. The moment their world is bigger than yours, they're leaving. And it's not their fault. If I can't continue to build the world bigger than they are, they probably should leave. So again, the family orientation, the camaraderie, but also being in the trenches and building that world, I've had longevity on the team, which is great. Other than a few circumstances that I alluded to earlier, that sometimes you just can't keep them all. But if you run that family oriented atmosphere, they're going to want to stay, and they're behind you, and they have full trust in you. Now, there are some disadvantages, as you
Yeah.
stated.
Yeah. Well, let's talk a little bit about the disadvantages, and then I'll circle back on some other questions that I have on this. What are a couple of the disadvantages of running a more family-centric business culture?
So first off, it's the only way I know how to run it, as you know,
Right.
and I've received, instruction from other sources that maybe I should run it a little bit different way. But, to the core, that's who I am. That's the only way I can do it. The disadvantages are when a top producer leaves, it hurts because we have had a really good, strong, cohesive relationship. And now they're outside of your world and it stings. Or if you have to fire someone, it makes it that much harder because I have probably formed a good relationship with their significant other, or if they had kids, we do things routinely as a family. So it's that much harder to fire someone or if they leave. And I typically run a smaller team. I've had no more than 7 people at one time because I want to make sure that every agent, I'm absolutely maxing them out before I'm going to make that next hire. I don't just go out and hire 3 or 4 people at a time. It's a very slow process for me. So, but running a business that way, the disadvantage is you have 1 or 2 producers leave. You're like, oh my goodness, they just left and I've got to build this all the way back. So that's where the disadvantage is, and that's where it stings a little bit is if they do leave, it's like, holy cow. Now I've got to build this back, and it takes a while, as you know.
Sure. Yeah. Well, it reminds me of a phrase that one of my early mentors in this business used to say, and presumably still does, is that I'd always rather lose a great one than hire a bad one. And to think of the talent that you have created inside your organization, many of whom are still with you and a few of whom have gone on to do other things. I think, and this may sound a little spinny, but I mean it as a compliment. There's some pride that comes with saying like, hey, I played a role in helping that person launch into this next phase of their career. And I think you've done that very gracefully, even though those moments sting. While we're hanging out here, there's one other question I'd like to ask that I imagine the listeners have as well. You're a nice guy. You're a really nice guy. And I mean that as the ultimate compliment. How do you balance being a nice guy and having high performance standards and holding people accountable? Because it would seem to most that those two are juxtapositions. Like if I'm going to hold someone accountable, then I can't let them close to me or I can't be quite as nice. But you found this kind of Goldilocks spot where you're being authentic to yourself and how you're hardwired and also expecting the best out of people. So could you speak to that for us, please?
That's a great question because my personality is, if you know the DISC profile, I'm a high S, so I am very steady and slow, and I want everyone to get along. And as far as the accountability side, I'm very hard on myself because I've been held accountable my entire life in the sports world. So I don't mind someone holding me accountable to my goals or, God forbid, a coach yell at me. It really doesn't bother me. So holding myself accountable is a very, very easy thing to do because I'm very hard on myself. I know what my potential is, and it drives me crazy when I don't reach that. However, holding my team accountable with my profile has been a constant challenge for me. Even though it's really easy to hold myself accountable, it is very challenging on that end to hold my team accountable. Just because, again, I want us to all get along, have the camaraderie, and I just don't want there to be any friction between team members or me and a team member. So what's helped me through the years is holding them accountable to what their goals are. So when I sit down with them a couple of times a year, certainly the latter part of the year to look at the goals for the year coming up, what are your goals personally and business wise? And let's find a way to reach those. And they basically, it's the analogy, I've got the gun, you give me the bullets to shoot you with. It's your bullets, they're not mine. So
Right.
what are your goals? Let's make sure that first off, your goals match with what I need as far as on the team. And then, thinking of it in that way, it's really helped me hold them accountable. And we have accountability calls every Wednesday on the team. So I'm calling the buyer agents, which I have 4 now. It's a 10 to 20-minute block every Wednesday morning. And I'm holding them accountable to their goals, shooting them with their own bullets. And it's worked out really well to do that.
Right.
Mainly for me, because I had that biggest block in my mind for some reason that I just didn't want to hold them accountable, or I felt bad because I'm a nice person. And so that's kind of how we do things on the team now, is these Wednesday accountability calls.
Yeah, and what you're modeling for everybody as well is you're modeling bottom up goal setting instead of top down goal setting. One of the things that we see a lot in this business is the team leader or the team owner from on high dictates everybody else's goals and then attempts to hold them accountable to sort of randomly set numbers or metrics. And what you're doing is getting clarity about that individual's goals and perhaps even more importantly, understanding why those goals are important to them, how that translates into their income goal, what that provides for them or their family. And it's the phrase we've heard a zillion times, is that people can't say no to their own goals. So you helping them gain a lot of clarity, because some people just don't have that. They arbitrarily pick goals, or they don't devote the time to the goal setting process to get clear. So you're helping your people through all of that. And then it rolls into this weekly meeting model where you're holding them accountable to those things. So I want to make sure that we really underscored that for those who are listening. Let's go into kind of the phase that you're in right now in the business, and you've been grinding hard for the past 12 to 24 months, as a lot of people have in this business, but you've overcome some team adversity. Let's take this 2 ways. One is kind of the core of your business, I know, is you're very sphere referral focused. So I want to spend some time talking about that. And you can get in the weeds on that with us too, on how you do that, because I think there's some gold in there for people. And then I'd like for us to talk about other things that you've added on recently as part of this. I don't know that I would call it necessarily like a full reinvention, but new things that you've added to the stack that are really paying off. But let's start with the fundamentals first. What are you doing really well with your sphere of influence?
So on the sphere of influence, I always think about, discipline being greater than motivation. Probably heard that before. It's really easy to get motivated. And this is personal relationships. This could be working out, or this could be in the business world. It's easy to shoot out of a cannon and be motivated for a couple of days, or motivated to reach a goal. But truly what sets top agents apart is the discipline. Doing the things that you need to do when you don't want to do it. So there are days that I don't want to work out. It's the last thing I want to do, but I do it because I'm disciplined. I'm going to reach that goal. There's days that I don't want to make phone calls. So there are days I don't even want to go on a listing appointment, which sounds crazy. I just don't feel like doing it, but I do it.
Yep.
You have to stay disciplined to reach those goals, but also the discipline with my sphere of influence. So going to my sphere, what I have followed year after year after year are a few things we do on a daily, weekly, yearly basis. So if you want to go through some of those, I'll be happy to. We
Please,
write handwritten notes like crazy on the team. I think that's a lost art. You get so much junk mail that this world of social media, I think handwritten notes have kind of gone away. And I've stayed very persistent in a lot of discipline on those. So we write birthday cards, anniversary cards, home sale anniversary, purchase anniversary. We do life event cards. So someone passes away, someone gets married, little Johnny hits a home run on Facebook. So we do some social watching on Facebook for handwritten cards. I'm probably writing 20 to 25 a week. And that has been part of
Excellent.
my business for years and years and years. And people
Mm-hmm.
love that. There's clients that I have not spoken with in 5 years, and literally they'll give me a call and say, "Hey, thanks for staying in touch." And I'm thinking, I really haven't. I'm like, "Oh, yeah, it's probably the note cards." So they do
Yeah.
work.
Uh-huh.
On top of the note cards, we hold 4 client events a year,
Mm-hmm.
which, real estate has not been great these past couple of years in the world of high interest rates, election year, you name it. A lot of
Mm-hmm.
unsteadiness in the real estate world. We have stayed true to our client events. So we do everything from, hosting a big Santa party at the office, which we have Santa come in. We do, we've had over at the baseball park. So we have the Greenville Drive here in Greenville, which is a Boston Red Sox affiliate. We'll rent out an entire section of about 275 seats and invite clients. We did that in the spring. We
Mm-hmm.
do movie days. So we'll rent out a movie theater, 600-person event space, and we'll invite everybody to that. So those are just some examples of, 4 times a year, we're doing something for our clients.
Mm-hmm.
And that's been a big referral source. And, we don't always ask for referrals when we hold these events. There are times we do sign-in sheets that we're asking for a referral. Other times we don't. We want it to happen more
Mm-hmm.
organically. I do get that question
Sure.
sometimes. And
Yep.
then it's just the routineness and the discipline of staying in touch with them at least once a month. If it's an email campaign, if it's a handwritten note, if it's a client party, we do giveaways routinely. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm a big Atlanta Braves fan. Go Bravos.
Yeah.
So we did
Braves. Yeah.
a Braves ticket giveaway. We got nothing in
Uh-huh.
return. We just wanted to do it for just our client base. We
Mm-hmm.
did a teacher appreciation giveaway. So any
Mm-hmm.
teachers that were in our sphere and teachers they knew of, we went outside of our sphere for that one. We did that
Yeah.
giveaway. So there's a lot of things we do, and we don't want anything in return. We don't want a referral. We just want to do this out of the goodness of our heart. And that alone will bring you referrals. So we
Yeah.
have a very strategic plan to stay in touch with our sphere really throughout the year. And that's been our biggest source of business. We typically run 80 to 90% referrals for all of our closings per year, which is
Mm-hmm.
good and bad on the same side. That, as you alluded to a little bit ago, that there's some things that we've implemented, which we'll get to here shortly, of ways
Mm-hmm.
that we're going to generate other business than just our referrals from Sphere. And,
Yeah.
Bill, if you want me to touch on, some of the Sphere things that have happened over the past couple of years
Mm-hmm.
with the high interest rate climate, and typically my bread and butter, I'm a Gen Xer,
Mm-hmm.
and my bread and butter really from 2019 to 2022, when interest rates went up, were your Gen Xer that was selling their house and they were going to move up to a bigger house that was more expensive because of that low interest rate. And those were just like clockwork. I would
Yeah.
list the house, of one of my buyer agents would work the buy side, and that was my bread and butter for a good 3 to 4 year period.
Mm-hmm.
Not that that has come to a halt now, but that has really slowed down because those Gen Xers now are staying in their house. So I've been
Sure.
looking at other ways to get business, and what are the sources now that are buying and selling houses rather than
Mm-hmm.
just working in my sphere and in my age group. So
Yeah. Yeah. Let's go back because there's a couple of things that I think are really interesting for us to talk about. You made a comment earlier, and I forget exactly how you worded this, but you were drawing the difference between discipline and motivation. And I'm curious if you have any thoughts of on those days when you don't feel like lead generating or don't feel like going on a listing appointment, and we've all been there. What is it that causes you to do it anyway? How do you get yourself motivated to go do the things that you don't want to do?
I think about my family, honestly. Think about my
Mm-hmm.
wife, my 3 kids, and they depend on me. And if I don't go on that appointment, I don't lead generate, we're not going to reach our family goals. And I always think of the saying, no pressure, no diamonds.
Yeah.
And when I feel a ton of pressure, first off, pressure is a privilege, because if you have pressure, that means someone's dependent on you. For me, that's my team, and that's my family, my wife and 3 kids. So those days that I don't want to make the phone call, don't want to go on the listing appointment, that's where the discipline comes in, and I have to do it. Mark, you have to get up and do this, because you have 3 mouths that are hungry at home, and you have a wife depending on you. And we vacation a ton, as you know, Bill. You know, we committed years ago that, you know, one of our main things as a family were vacation. And remember, my time blocking is personal time 1, vacation 2. So we're big vacationers. And I know if I don't go on that listing appointment, my wife probably won't go to Italy that year.
Right.
So I've got to make it.
Yeah, we could probably have a fun chat offline about who's more excited about vacations, your wife Andrea or my wife Sarah. I think they're birds of a feather there on the
Absolutely.
bit by the travel bug. Well, let's talk a little more about things that you've added to the stack recently. So you've done the sphere thing really well for a long time. One thing you mentioned that I just want to hit with a highlighter here is that you guys have not pulled back on those things over the past couple of years as the business has gotten comparatively more difficult. You've actually leaned in a little harder on those things. And roughly maybe 9 months ago, plus or minus, you've added some other things to the stack that are starting to pay off. So what's the new stuff you're doing?
Okay, so new stuff, you know, a couple of years ago, I would say we were really digging in on who are buying and selling houses right now? Who are the demographics? Who are the age groups? And it's the bookends. It's number one, the baby boomers. And they are, you know, the ones that unfortunately are dying off, or they're moving into assisted living, or their kids who are our age taking over the home. So that's been one piece of our business, is really focusing on that generation. So I've personally set multiple meetings with probate attorneys, with financial planners, with estate sales representatives. I sat down one day and just thought, who are these baby boomers going to before they get to me? And I want to get ahead of that and get those referrals. And that's worked really well, but also networking with the Gen Xers, because they're the kids. So getting to them first, you know, hey, I know your folks live in so-and-so. Are they still there? And just starting that conversation. And I'll let them know, hey, we actually specialize in the baby boomer generation. And by the way, I've hired a baby boomer now, and he's really focused on that demographic. So that we've had a lot of success in the baby boomers. So that's one end. The other end of the spectrum are your millennials, your first-time home buyers. So I have 2 millennials on my team that have been really hitting that side of you know, social media and working with their age group. But what I really want to focus on is the YouTube channel that we've started.
Please.
So those are the 3 areas of opportunity that we identified: baby boomers, millennials, and YouTube. So I started the YouTube channel about 6 months ago, and it has really taken off now. So if you want me to dive into that a little bit, I'll be happy to.
Let's do it. Let's go as far into the weeds as you want to on that. I know everybody loved to hear about it.
So first off, you know, we had to come up with a plan, and, you know, who's coming up with a script? You know, where are we going to film this? Who's going to edit it? Who's going to put it out there? How consistently are we going to do this? What day are we going to post it? So myself and the team, we just threw spaghetti all over the board one day and came up with a game plan. And thankfully for us, everything's in-house, from my two administrators to an agent that's on my team that actually his background is photography and videography. So we figured out a plan to where all of this stays in-house, which is great. And it took us quite a few weeks to get the hang of it. But now it's like clockwork. So we're putting one video out a week. So every Friday it drops. I'm the one who comes up with the script. I'm the one who films it. And I just give them the raw video and they run with it. So we have 3 people involved on the team that gets the production and gets those posted out there. Through some training, those videos, that the flow of them, are pretty much the same. The intro, the call to action, and then, a little carrot you're going to dangle on the front end, and then discuss that on the back end. And that could be anywhere between, hey, stay tuned to the end of this video, and I'm going to show you the top 3 neighborhoods in Greenville that have the best buyer incentives on the new construction end. And then you talk about those 3 neighborhoods at the end. And it took a while for it to get going, which I knew. However, now, the last I looked, we've got 6 videos that have over 1,000 views, and they just keep building and building and building. And I have found out that the most watched videos are actually retirement videos. So we're really, which is the baby boomer generation. Not only are they selling houses in Greenville, they're moving to Greenville. And a lot of baby boomers are on YouTube. Didn't realize that.
Yeah.
That's where they go.
Yeah.
So I don't know off the top of my head how many videos we're in now, but again, it's about 6 months of work. And we are really, really starting to see the result after 6 months. We have closed 1 so far, and we've probably set 4 or 5 appointments in the office from relocations. And I am fully expecting to wake up next year, and this is your term, getting our faces ripped off. We're ready, but off.
Well, what you've been doing is the thing that the platform really rewards, and that is consistency. And you're just hitting that threshold where YouTube/Google is going to let you out of the playpen a little bit. So usually we see at that like 5 to 6 months is where things really start to kick in, because you've proven that you're going to consistently add valuable content to the platform. And I think you're exactly right. Others that we coach who have done this really well see in that like 6 to 12 month window, the consistent lead flow starts. And then in like that 12 to 24 month window, it's like holding on to the mechanical bull as best as you can. And I know you guys organizationally are prepared for that as well, which is super awesome. Tell us a little bit more about, and this could be either your process that you're going through there, or like ideas or top videos that you've created so far. Anything in the weeds that you think might be helpful lessons for those who are listening in?
So the video itself, the best thing about videos in YouTube is they don't have to be perfect. There are times that I mess up. There are times that I stutter. There's times that I laugh at myself. I keep it on. And so many times, and I'm probably getting a call every other day right now, or an email or a text, someone reaching out every other day. And a lot of times they mention, thank you so much for being real. Like, we watch your videos because we feel like that's your personality. We could be wrong when we meet you, but we feel like your personality is out there. I felt like the first few videos, I was kind of a robot. Yeah. Now I'm just relaxed, and I'm going to talk. And if I mess up, I'm going to keep it in there. There are times a couple of videos ago, I stuttered like 4 times. I was like, screw it, I'm going to keep this in. But people can relate to you because you're being real. And the more real I'm in these videos, I think the better off that I'm going to be. Now, identifying some of the top videos. So I did a retirement in Greenville video, which has about 5,000 views now. That was early on. I've done a second retirement video that's already almost 1,000. So that kind of tells me, the demographic of who's watching these. Other videos that I've had a ton of success are comparing city to city. So, Greenville versus Asheville was a hit. Yeah. I did South Carolina versus Florida. which was a big
Mm-hmm.
one. We have a
Yeah.
lot of folks relocating from Florida to South Carolina.
Mm-hmm.
And also, when I received these referrals, I asked them, and most of them have watched most of the videos. Once they land on the channel, they're going to listen to all of them. And I ask them, like, what's next? What do you think would be a good video for me to put out there? And I'm starting to get that feedback. And one Floridian said, what I think you need to put in the video is how all of us are moving to South Carolina, North Carolina, Tennessee from Florida, kind of the halfbackers, because
Right.
of the high taxes, the warm climate, the sameness every day. So I did a video
Mm-hmm.
on that very same thing, and it's starting to take off. So I do get
Yeah.
feedback from them routinely. But I'd
Yeah.
say right now my top videos again are retirees, and then the comparing city to city or state to state.
Yeah. And I think you hit on a really important topic here for those who are focused on relocation business, particularly if you're in the Southeast or the Sun Belt, is the typical focus would be to focus on the Northeast and the Mid-Atlantic, and that's not necessarily wrong. But the big trend is people leaving Florida for the reasons that you mentioned. Also, insurance costs, particularly on the coasts, are driving people into the foothills of South Carolina, North Carolina, Tennessee, as you mentioned. So you guys are doing a really nice job of capitalizing on that group that's moving from Florida halfway back to their original home in the Northeast or the Mid-Atlantic. Anything else you want to share with us on your YouTube or digital strategy that you think might be helpful?
We have a millennial that is our client care coordinator. So she's done a lot of work on our Instagram account, which I don't go to necessarily. So she's doing a lot of things there. We're going to have a TikTok, which I'm a little too old for TikTok. She's going to get that going. So we do have a lot of things in the works on the social media realm. Primarily for me, I'm just focused on YouTube.
Mm-hmm. Well, this is another area that I think is important for the folks at home to take away from this. A few years ago, we were talking about building demographic diversity in your database, which you've spoken to some, and also building demographic diversity within your team. And maybe rabbit trail with us here for just a second on how you've gone about doing that and why that's been important to this new and even more improved version of Rucker and Associates.
So number one, when we have clients come into our world, if it's a listing or an investor or a buyer, a lot of times they do go through me first just because I'm the face of Rucker and Associates. I grew up in that area that I'm selling real estate. So a lot of times the leads do go through me, which I'm fine with. So when they first come to me, I want diversity. If it's different disc profiles, different age spectrums, I want that on my team to give that person options. So I typically still do run the first meeting, and then I'll set them up with who I think best fits their needs. On the disc profile side, also age group. And I think that's very important because people are going to work with who they like.
Yeah.
And by the way, that was one of the biggest challenges years ago is they're calling me, wanting me, and then I'm doing that handoff to an agent. However, if you truly believe that you hire people better than you in those fields and you have the diversity, now it is so easy to hand those people off because I know they're going to get taken care of. I know they're better than me at working that certain field of real estate.
Yeah.
And then matching them up as far as those things I mentioned has really been a big success for our team.
Yeah. This might be a good segue to talk about the development of people within your organization. And I know this is something you do a really nice job of. So whether it's training or coaching or meeting structure, what are some of the ways that you're pouring into your people to make sure that you get the best out of them and they're growing along with you?
As far as the meetings, so every Tuesday and Thursday, we have, it's called a power up call. So it's a Zoom call from 8:45 until about 9:00, 9:05 is pretty quick, but we all see each other's face. There are times in real estate, as everyone knows, that you're running like crazy. You may not see a team member for an entire week.
Mhm.
So we make sure twice a week we're on a Zoom call. It's a quick round robin. Hey, how are things going? What's on your plate today? We don't get into the weeds. If they have a question or something that they want to have a deep dive in, hey, call me after this. Don't bring it up in front of everyone. It's just a good camaraderie huddle at
Yep.
8:45. So that's
Yep.
Tuesday, Thursday.
Yep.
On Wednesday mornings are the accountability phone calls.
Mhm.
So I'll round robin the agents on the team, and
Mhm.
that those phone calls, I'm going through their personal goals as well as their business goals. I hit the
Mhm.
personal first, hit the business second,
Yep.
and pouring into them on the personal side is, first off, it's natural for me, but also that's the camaraderie and the longevity and loyalty. Because if you care about someone's personal goals, that's going to mean a ton to them. Business is
Mhm.
important, but I think personal certainly over business. So that's Wednesdays. On Mondays and Fridays, that's when our transaction coordinator is
Mhm.
calling the agents to run through closings and anything they need to know for the week.
Yeah.
So the phone call on Monday, hey, here's what's coming up. Phone call on Friday, hey, we're going into the weekend. Here's what's coming up for the following week. So
Mhm.
there's some sort of phone call every single day. The only
Mhm.
ones I'm on are the Tuesday, Thursday.
Gotcha.
And then once a month, we meet as a team for about 2 hours.
Mhm.
We used to do that weekly, you know, death by meeting. It
Uh-huh.
was just killing us. And we were sitting there thinking, why are we meeting yet again? Because we have so many meetings already throughout the day and throughout our market center. So
Mhm.
we, about a year ago, changed to once a month for a good 2.5 hours rather than
Mhm.
once a week for 30 to 45 minutes, because you still have to drive in, meet in person, and it takes a lot
Mhm.
longer just in the meeting.
Mhm.
So we do
Yep.
a good 2 hour deep dive on, again, we always set our meetings by, hey, let's talk about a win, and we round robin. What's your biggest win personally? What's your biggest win on the business side? And
Mhm.
then we go into numbers as far as where
Mhm.
our team fits versus our goals, where we stand versus the market. Are we gaining market share? Are we losing market share? We go through our Greenville real estate numbers. We go through any meetings or any coaching sessions I've had with you and review those things. And then we wrap up with anything that, if we have time, we will wrap up with anything like pressing, kind of a coaching session. Like, hey,
Mhm.
bring your issues for the next 30 minutes, what you have going on. Let's talk collectively as a team, and I can help coach y'all through these things. And that could be
Mhm.
a bad pay request, that could be an angry seller, whatever that scenario is. I help coach, and then we get input from the team during those last 20, 30 minutes.
Nice.
And then lastly, there are two more meetings we hold. We do probably in October to November-ish goal setting for the next year. We do get
Mhm.
ahead of that. We don't meet in December because I think that's too late. Typically, end of October, 1st of November, we'll meet as a team for 4 or 5 hours off site and go through everything that we've done well as a team, everything we sucked at as a team, what are we going to commit to for the next year, and how we can be better in all those different areas. And then lastly, we have project meetings.
Mhm.
So the YouTube, that was a project day. That wasn't our team meeting. That wasn't a goal setting meeting. That was, hey, let's spend 2, 3 hours, throw spaghetti on the wall, see what sticks, and let's figure this out. We do that twice a year. One or two
Mhm.
projects max that we want to nail. We all get together. Who's gonna take charge? Who's gonna lead here? Who's gonna do the follow up? And I pass the baton to team members to take those roles on, and I just hold them accountable to reaching those goals. So that's kind of how the year maps out as far as accountability and things we do as a team. And those are just meetings. Routinely we'll have fun days. I mean, hey y'all, let's all go to lunch and let's go burn 2 hours at Dave and Buster's. Let's go
Mhm.
let off some steam. We always go out to lunch for birthdays. We've done that for years. Hey, where you want to go? We all do cake and a whole hour and a half of birthday, which I think is important. And
Agreed.
then we
Yeah.
do other team activities. I'll have them come over to my house, grill out for them. We'll go zip lining. There are things that I'll come up with throughout the year to just have fun, let business go, and let's just be ourselves. And that's where it builds that cohesiveness throughout the year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's great. Mark, I can imagine there might be some people at home who are thinking, man, that sounds like a lot of meetings, or that sounds like a lot of work. And what I know is you're still in the position of the lead listing agent. You're still in production. And I wonder if you might speak to why you've chosen those meeting models and then how you create the space to make sure that you're able to do those.
So I made a commitment long ago building this team that I'm going to be front and center. I'm going to be in the trenches, and I'm going to lead the majority of these meetings. Yes, it's a lot, and you may be listening like, holy cow, how do you hold these meetings? And yes, I'm the main listing agent for the team, and also have a family at home, which we'll get to the counterbalance of that here in a little bit. But as far as, the training sessions, I think, again, it's just important that I lead the charge. But it just goes back to time blocking. Like I have to be, I know pretty much every minute of the day of where I'm going to be. And my calendars are shared with my team members, and they know the times to not mess with me. So
Yeah.
if I'm in that 1.5 to 2 hour block and I'm doing lead gen, or I'm doing lead follow up, or I have a listing appointment on the schedule, they don't bother me because they know that is my time. The only way I can run all these things that I run is I have to be diligent and disciplined in that window. And it is tough. I'm not perfect. There are times that I get sideswiped and I'm like, okay, this did not work out well, but you can't have 2 bad days in a row. You can have one bad day. And I tell my team members that too. You can have a terrible day. Everybody has a bad day, but you better come back tomorrow and have the best day you've ever had. Don't have 2 bad days in a row. So again, my day starts around 8:45 in the morning, and I have to be so diligent and so on task and so disciplined so I can reach all the other goals that I have in my home and family life. But the only way I can do that is get the team to buy in. So if I'm in that lead gen mode, like, dude, there is no emergency that you can possibly bring to me that's going to deter me from what I'm doing right now, other than my wife is trying to call me. Like, everything else in the world does not matter except this block that I'm doing right now. And they've bought into that because they know the team starts and ends with me. And if I'm doing my necessary duties, we're going to reach all the goals that we've set. And they're going to reach their goals if I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing in that time blocking. So they know the times to not mess with me. If my back's to them and I'm working, that they're not bringing stuff to my table.
There might be some people who are listening to that and saying, that sounds great for you, Mark, but that sounds hard. That sounds like a lot of responsibility. That sounds like maybe more than I'm willing to commit to, or maybe more than my team members might be willing to commit to. So sell me on your idea versus maybe an alternative idea that might be more, I don't know, lax or loosey-goosey.
So I want to live a life by design, meaning I want to do what I want to do, when I want to do it, and where I want to do it. And the only way I can do that is to stay disciplined in what I do on a daily basis. So if I want to take Friday off and go play golf and not worry about business, I'm going to do it. If I want to take a week trip a month from now and give the team pretty much no notice, I'm going to do it because I know I can, because I've been so disciplined in the time that I've been working that I can do those things. And as realtors, I kind of fall into this trap at times. It's easy to look over your shoulder or look out ahead and say, wow, kind of wish I had what they have. Or man, that team's selling so much more. Or that person plays golf twice a week. Or whatever it is that you want that you don't have. Here's the key though. You don't know what that person did to get there.
Yeah.
And I always remind myself when I get a little jealous sometimes, I'm like, you know what, Mark, you need to pull back because you don't know what that person did to get there. Yeah, that person plays golf twice a week, but guess what? The first 20 years of his real estate career, he busted his tail to do that now. And I think that's a big way that we fail as realtors is we get jealous, but also we're not doing what we need to do to get there. Yeah. And so that's why on a daily basis, I stay in my wheelhouse and stay so disciplined so I can get to all of my family goals. It is hard though, Bill. It's not easy, but if it was easy, everybody would be doing it, right?
Right. Exactly. You've talked a lot today about what you and I would call counterbalancing, about front loading your calendar with personal related things and then backfilling with work, which you and I run very similarly on that and have for a number of years. But we also know that that's not the norm in our industry. And we know that that's not the norm in the world of entrepreneurship. And perhaps there are some people who are listening right now that says, so, well, that sounds pretty idealistic to me, Mark. But I wonder if you might just talk more about why it's important to you to organize your calendar that way, and then how very practically you're able to run a big business and live a pretty big life also by running it that way versus the opposite.
We all have defining moments in our life, good or bad, that we look back on. And one that certainly sticks out to me, this was years ago. My wife and I were out to a really nice dinner. I was making a lot of money. I thought I was living a great life. But guess what I was doing the entire meal? We had the most beautiful steak in front of us, $200 bottle of wine, living our best life, but I'm on my phone the entire time. Yes. And she stopped me in my tracks. She said, Mark, this has got to stop. Like, I need you to be here. Wherever we are, I need you to be there. I need you to shut down business. And you told me long ago, Mark, you're going to commit to me and the kids. They're number one in your life, and I don't feel like they are. Even though you're here eating with me, you're not here. And it was like, boom, I'm missing it. I thought I was doing what I was supposed to do, and I wasn't. So that was it. And I've got a lot of other defining moments that have led me to who I am today, but that was a big one that stuck out. That's like, holy cow, I've got to be better time blocking. Also, I have to be better in teaching my clients and my team on how they should treat me, but I've got to do that on the front end. So again, that defining moment, I said, okay, I've got to change my scripts. I've got to change my habits. How can I sit there at dinner and not look at my phone and not worry about chasing a lead down and be 100% focused with our discussion?
Yeah.
And I still work at it. It's hard, but it starts with the counterbalance that you are referencing. And their urgency is not my emergency. And that's clients and that's my team members. So if they have something pressing they need from me, it should not be my emergency unless their house is burning down or it's an absolute catastrophe. From a client standpoint, you know, they call me at 8:00 at night. What possibly can I do at 8:00? Attorney's offices are closed. Lender offices are closed. Unless your house is burning to the ground, what can I do at 8 p.m.? Right. So to back up, when I first meet with them, if it's a listing appointment or buyer appointment or an investor appointment, on the front end, I'm telling them, hey, these are the hours I typically work. If you want me to answer my phone at 9 o'clock at night, we're not a fit. Now, some people say, well, I don't have enough business to say that, Mark. Well, you better start saying those things now, or guess what? You're going to be teaching them. If you receive that phone call at 9 or you text them back at 9 o'clock, you're teaching them that you work those hours. I don't even respond. The next morning at 8 a.m., I will respond respectively. However, unless there's a deadline of some sort of repair negotiation or contract negotiation, my wife's not an idiot. She understands I have deadlines. Outside of those things, I do not respond to business after supper time, with the family. However, I'm telling the clients on the front end, these are the hours I work. And then, in the evenings, I'm involved with kid ball games, kid practices. I'm running around like crazy. And that's the same thing. That's family time. That is me and the kids' time. That's me and the wife time. And I'm not going to intersect those things. But that goes back to me being so dadgum disciplined, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. to allow me to shut things off. And it is always a work in progress. But that's been my biggest thing I've worked on over the years is being there. That's the term, be there.
Yeah. And this may be sort of a duh question, but take it any direction you want to. What have been some of the biggest advantages for you in running your life the way that you just described?
First off, when I explain that to clients, they actually appreciate it. You would think it'd be the opposite. They're busy, they have lives, but they also know that I'm being a real person. And when I tell them I put family first, it almost makes them want to work with me more. That I've found out. And some agents that just can't come out of their mouth, but I'm very stern on that. Now on the advantage side, I told the story about eating dinner with my wife and I just couldn't get off the phone. Now I've been so disciplined and I've been treating my clients a certain way for years and years and years. Now I can go on a week and a half vacation and not look at my phone one time. Now that's years and years of building the team and making sure that my business is handled by team members. Wasn't an easy task, but those are the advantage of the life by design, the freedom that I have now. I'm not bound to my phone. I'm not bound to social media. I can shut those things down for days at a time and not have to worry about it. I have a great team behind me, and that's the only way I can do those things, are discipline and hiring the right way, the right people, so I can live my life by design how I want to live it.
Sure. It's fantastic. Love it. And very encouraging for those who might be struggling to do what you're describing right now, to see what it looks like on the other side of that. Just a few more questions as we wrap up. And so this is sort of the rapid fire section. Let's imagine that there's a new-ish agent out there. You've been at this 20 years now and got the battle scars to prove it. But what advice would you give a newer agent?
Back to the discipline motivation. Understand that discipline is much greater than motivation. You'll get a lot further in life if you're disciplined than if you're motivated. Real estate is a marathon, not a sprint. There can be series of sprints in there. That's where motivation can come in. You have competitions, inside your team or against another agent or however you want to do those competitions. Those are fun. Those will get you going, but it's not going to get you where you want to go long term. You have to be disciplined. Don't have 2 bad days in a row. If you have a bad day, put it down, come back the next day and have the best day you've ever had. Also, keep in mind what your job description should be. It is lead generate, lead follow-up, appointments, and negotiations. Nothing else matters. I didn't say closings. I didn't say go have coffee with your friend. I didn't say work on a spreadsheet, work on your listing appointment to perfection. Obviously, those things matter, but you got to do those top 4 or nothing else matters because you're not going to have business. And, there's tons of ways you can lead generate and find out, what your thing is. And as a new agent, you have to weave in and out to see what your wheelhouse is and what you're going to commit to. So that's a whole nother discussion there. But pick 2 or 3 things, be great at it. Don't ever stop. When you have those leads come in or you get somebody on the hook, remember the analogy of gain yardage. Each follow-up you do, just bring them further down the football field, because you're going to end up having them in the end zone. This business, it's not easy, but it's simple. And by that is, if it was easy, everybody would do it. It's very simple if you do the things that you're supposed to do on a daily basis. You can make a lot of money. You can have a life by design if you just compound that day after day, month after month, year after year.
Beautiful. Well said. Similar question, but a different audience. What would you say to the team leaders, the team owners, what would you say to your peer group that might be good advice?
So it's pretty lonely at the top, y'all. Not that I'm number one or anything. However, I've built a good business with Bill's help, and it gets very lonely up here. There may not be someone even in your own office or market center, or even city for that matter, that you can bounce ideas off. So make sure you're constantly growing. If you're not growing, you're dying. You're going backwards. And that goes back to our discussion earlier about the things I'm implementing, like YouTube and the baby boomer generation. There are things I have to add to my business because there's areas of the business that aren't working great. And I can't keep doing those same things. I mean, that's insanity. So you have to shift. You have to pivot. You have to constantly get new ideas and be disciplined to put those in place. And then network with agents that are doing more business than you are on a level playing field. Yes, you want to pour into your agents that are in your own city or market center or office. But for you to grow, you have to continue to look elsewhere, and you can't stay stagnant.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Mark, I want to tell you, I really admire what you do, and I don't mean this just to puff your ego a little bit, because I know you're a no ego, humble kind of guy. But we talk a lot about modeling what we'd like to see in others around us, and I think you just do a fantastic job of, whether it's for our peer group or it's for your team or it's even for your kids, you're modeling the things that are really important to you. And none of us is perfect, for sure, but you certainly have a lot more good days than you do bad days. And I appreciate your comments about not having bad days back to back. So I'm just, I really appreciate you and our friendship and our business partnership, and admire the work that you're doing.
I appreciate that, Bill. It means a lot, because there are times that you don't want to do it. And there's days that I just want to hang out and not speak to one person on the team, but just keep going. I know I can't give up. And I appreciate you, your friendship, your mentorship. You have been a absolute vital role in where I am today, personally and on the business side. So I do appreciate that. I couldn't be here without your guidance. And, I mentioned earlier about me building my world bigger than my team. You continue to build your world bigger than any team that coaches with you. So kudos. Keep that up.
Well, thank you, my friend. It means a lot. I appreciate your kind words there. For those who want to send some referrals to Greenville, South Carolina and the surrounding areas, I know you're always happy to do that. How can they get in touch with Mark Rucker and Rucker and Associates?
Yes. So cell phone 864-616-1932. 864-616-1932, or shoot me an email, mark@ruckerandassociates.com. All spelled out, mark@ruckerandassociates.com.
Excellent. Thanks, Mark. Appreciate your time today. It's been a fun conversation, and really enjoyed all the wisdom that you shared with the folks. We'll see you next time.
Absolutely. Thanks, Bill.
All right. Well, that's a wrap for today. I trust you came away with ideas to ponder and actions to take. I know I did. Before you go, please be sure to subscribe to the Middleton Elite Entrepreneur on your favorite platforms. And if you like what we're doing, please leave us a review. It really helps us spread the word to more people just like you. Finally, you can learn more about the work we do in coaching and consulting entrepreneurs by visiting us at middletonelitecoaching.com, where you'll find thoughtful commentary I write for our blog, info on upcoming live events, and tons of free resources to help you grow your business. Again, that's middletonelitecoaching.com. Until next time, be elite.